The more people we can show our product or service to, the more chance we've got of selling it. The more we connect with people, the more chance we've got to learn and grow our businesses. And LinkedIn is a powerful tool that you can use for free to get eyes on your stuff for people to want to engage you and buy it, and to get free advice from other people that have been there, done it and got the t-shirt.
Oh, blimey, it is warm in this voiceover booth today. I don't mind telling you. Anyway, shut up, Steve, and get on with it. Welcome to episode 92 of Sharp Podcast, the personal growth podcast from SON Development, where we help you get better at the things you have to do so you can spend more time on the things you want to do. Now, I know that I often open these episodes by telling you how good the episode's going to be. And I genuinely mean it. I do get excited about the people we have on and the ideas that we bring and how they're going to help you. But in this episode, not only am I excited about the person and the ideas, I am particularly excited about how I think it's going to help you. You see, whether you work for an organisation as an employee, or maybe you're a small business owner, or even you run or work in a large business, LinkedIn has become a powerful tool for you to have in your armoury. With 1 billion members and an estimated 200 million people active on it every day, as our guest, Jodie Goodchild, says, there's a bit of a revolution going on. You see, the days have gone of LinkedIn just being somewhere that you posted basically an online CV and look for a job. Today it's a place where you can demonstrate your authority and your knowledge in your specialist area, you can share good ideas to help other people, and you can get new business. In this packed conversation, honestly, we talk about so much, I'm actually going to make a bit of a recommendation about how I think you can get the most from it. We're going to cover 3 areas. We're going to look at why LinkedIn matters now more than ever, what you should be doing, and how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the podcast up into those 3 sections with a quick break in between each. So if an hour of us talking is too much to take on in one sitting, or you're finding yourself getting a bit overwhelmed with the amount of useful ideas, you can do the first section, and then if you want to, you can take a break, reflect on what you might want to start doing differently, maybe even go and do it, and then come back for the next section, and so on. However you listen, whether you do it all in one go or break it up, make sure that you do make it to the end where you can find out how you personally can get Jodie's help with your LinkedIn transformation. Don't forget all the key information and links, as always, will be in the show notes. So, that's enough preamble. Let's join Jodie and me, and we're recording this in the fantastic new podcast room at Spark Community Space. Here we go. Hello, Jodie.
Hi.
Here we are in the Spark Community Space podcast room. It's all right in here, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's comfy. There's pillows. Cool. It's quiet. You get tea served. What more could you want? I don't want to start this podcast with a pitch slap, and we'll learn later what a pitch slap is. But if you want to make a podcast, come here. Yeah.
Come and speak to Becky at Spark, and she can talk to you about the podcast room. So we're here today to talk about all sorts of stuff. Mm-hmm. But before we get going, can you please tell our listener, because we only have one, who
Hello,
you are.
one listener.
Hello, one listener. Who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always pressure when you get asked to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm Jodie Goodchild, and I run a business of my own, which I've been doing for the last 2 years. And I primarily teach people how to use LinkedIn, and I also do consultancy in lead generation and sales. And my background is 20 years in sales and marketing for my sins. And my career started as a telemarketer, a cold caller. Yeah.
Not everyone might know what a telemarketer is.
No, they might not.
What do telemarketers do?
They call you and bug you and try and sell you stuff. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Isn't it funny these days, like, I don't know about you, but whenever I get a phone call from someone now, I'm just waiting for the gap so I can say, can you please take me off your database?
Yep. Literally, that was my life. 20 calls every hour I had to make. 20 calls an hour, like literally about 180 cold calls a day. And in that, I'd speak to 8 people, and I'd have to book appointments to get my customer's product in front of people.
Hasn't the world changed?
It has, and that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah.
So 20 years telemarketing. So that is the part of the business that's trying to get new business and generate leads and all that kind of stuff and so on. I often forget how we met.
Yeah.
Because did we
don't
meet through
forget how we met.
PBE?
Yeah. No,
No.
we didn't. It was LinkedIn. I messaged you. We looked at this recently.
Yes, yeah.
I messaged you on LinkedIn, and that's how we started talking.
Yeah, because you had a purple background and I have an orange
you had an
background.
orange. Yeah.
And then we had a catch up and we learned that we have quite a lot in common.
Yeah, like a crazy, scary amount in common.
Yeah. Then you started coming to PBE.
Yep, because of you.
Yes.
Yep.
So PBE, again, dear listener, if you don't know already, and you probably should because I'll go on about it, PBE, Portsmouth Business Exchange, meets at Spark Community Space, which is where we are, and hence that connection and so on.
Yep.
And then we went to a LinkedIn local.
Yeah. So I met Penny at PBE. And I then came into PBE when I'd first kind of started and I'd first joined the group, and I ran kind of like a how to use LinkedIn session and do a bit of lead gen. Yeah. And then Penny was like, we really need that help in raising money for LinkedIn Local. So I helped Penny set up a campaign on LinkedIn to use to raise money for LinkedIn Local. She raised actually, they had to stop the campaign because they got too many sponsorships. Wow. And that was how we started talking about LinkedIn Local. And now I've just joined actually to help as a volunteer, help them run the event.
But we said that we'd have a conversation on the podcast about LinkedIn because you've done an awful lot of work. And particularly recently, you've been working with large corporations and online and all sorts of stuff around LinkedIn. And whilst LinkedIn isn't the only thing you do, because your background is that broader understanding of lead generation and getting new business and all that kind of stuff, clearly LinkedIn has a massive place in that field.
Yeah.
And you've become a bit of an expert. So this is Ask the Expert podcast version.
I'm trying. I feel like it is going that way, yeah. And I think it's because LinkedIn is such a big part of the lead generation world now, and the world has changed a lot. And also because I'm using it for my own business, and without kind of going into the stuff we're going to discuss, like when I started my business, I had absolutely no money, as most of us do, to do any marketing, whilst I would have loved to. But what I did have is LinkedIn and time. And actually this is my second year in business, and my end of current financial year will be the end of August. Right. And the second year of my business has grown by over 30% just from using LinkedIn as my only channel, and I pay $0 to do marketing.
Wow. Now, thinking about our listener might be thinking, well, I'm not interested in LinkedIn, so I'm not going to listen to this podcast. Please don't switch off. And let me tell you why. Didn't you say that you did a course recently where someone who we won't name had said, I'm not interested in that. That's not for me. Yep. And then there was a road to Damascus moment, and they went, oh.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So I ran a workshop last week, and it was for an engineering company. And one of the gentlemen in the room kind of came in and said, yeah, I kind of see people posting on LinkedIn, but I'll be honest, like, it's not for me. I don't want to do that, and I can't see it helping me at all. And then at the end of the session, he actually said, do you know what? You've completely changed my mind on this, and I can totally see why I need to be on it. And I thank you for that, because I can see how this is going to make my life easier. Wow. So that was a big tick for me.
And sales is obviously one aspect of it. We had a bit of a pre-podcast chat, didn't we, about who this might be interesting for. And we kind of figured that our listeners probably perhaps fall into two categories. So you've got people that don't really use LinkedIn very much and may not know very much about it. Or people do use it, but perhaps on realising its full potential. They might not be getting the most out of it. Yeah. So if you, listener, are interested enough to understand how it can help you, I promise you, keep listening, because there are some right gold nuggets in here. I've heard it all before I know what we're talking about. I'm going to share that with you. Yes, why should our listener pay attention? Why is LinkedIn relevant to maybe someone who might be thinking, well, I do a bit of Facebook, I do a bit of Instagram, LinkedIn's not for me.
Yeah. And it's a great question. And ultimately, what I can tell you factually, having been in the world of sales and marketing for the last 20 years nearly, is that the landscape of sales and marketing has completely changed. Okay. And so is the way that means that the way that we do leads has changed as well. So I would say that the lead generation playbook, whilst the primary bits of it are the same, like you must have a call to action, you've got to have your elevator pitch, etc. The way we do it has genuinely seen a massive shift. So, I used to be a telemarketer on the phone. I could make 20 calls every hour for the day. In that day, I'd speak to 8 people, and I would know that I could probably get 2 or 3 appointments booked out of that. Okay. But I would ask the listener this: when was the last time you brought something from a cold call for your business? Not a lot of people can answer that with, oh yeah, I bought something the other day. But if I say to you, when was the last time you brought something because you had a relationship with somebody, 9 times out of 10, you can think about something that you brought. And the reason that you should take LinkedIn seriously is because digital is not going anywhere. We're moving in a real big direction when it comes to sales and marketing digitally. And actually, the editor-in-chief at LinkedIn, a guy called Dan Roth, recently shared that LinkedIn saw a surge of 42% of usage in LinkedIn from the pandemic because people weren't able to connect with their friends and their colleagues, like they were in the office. Yeah. So whilst they would go on Facebook and Instagram to share, what they were doing with their friends and family, they were taking to LinkedIn to share what they were doing a little bit more personally than they would before because of the pandemic. And LinkedIn themselves say that that's when they saw it start to take off.
Okay.
Fast forward to today, and we're in 2024, there's 1 billion people on LinkedIn, 1 million posts are put on the platform per day.
Wow.
So tell me that people aren't using LinkedIn when you know that there's 1 million posts per day. There's 76 million active daily users on LinkedIn, which ultimately is your untapped audience.
Okay. And something you said there about potential and the people that are using it, obviously sales and marketing are key areas that people benefit from. But there's probably a lot of people out there who maybe aren't in sales or marketing, but maybe either they're small business owners who run their own business, or they're employed by a company. They don't do any selling, they don't do any marketing. If they're employed, it might not be obvious to them that there's a reason to engage, but actually there's a time when something will change. They'll either be looking for work. And honestly, if I had £1 for every person who you hear nothing from for years and years, and suddenly they're all over LinkedIn, and you can put a pin in it and say they're looking for a new job, or something's happened at that organisation, they're now looking for a new job, because that's the only time that many people engage with it. But actually, had they done something previously to build their personal brand, get people to see they're the authority in retail sales, they're the authority in chemicals, whatever it is, it's going to be much easier for them to connect with other people that might be able to offer them an opportunity. I think.
Absolutely. Okay. Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 kinds of people then: people that are looking to generate business for an organisation, people that maybe work for themselves who are looking to generate new clients, new leads, and then people who are employed who are like trying to grow their own brand, assert themselves as an authority in their field. So earlier we were talking about how the world has changed. So going back 30 years, the world was about phone calls, knocking doors, face-to-face meetings, lots of paper, Rolodexes.
Yeah.
I bet you had a Rolodex. You strike me as someone that had a Rolodex.
Unfortunately not.
Even if you weren't around in the area when they were there, you seem like you'd have thousands of contacts.
Yeah, we did have bits of paper. I used to have to write my commission, which makes me laugh. As a salesperson, I had to write what commission I'd earned on a bit of paper and give it to my boss, who would then check it and approve it for my bonus.
Okay. When we were talking yesterday about this, you said something very poignant, actually. You cannot start a business now without being on the internet. No. It's practically impossible.
It would be,
And clearly LinkedIn is, internet-based media. It just makes sense for that to integrate into someone starting the business. It's also free at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's actually 2 different types of LinkedIn. So you have LinkedIn free, which you can absolutely use and get the most out of. You can still create a profile, you can join groups, you can build connections. And then there's a paid version of LinkedIn, which is about £80 a month, which not a lot of kind of small business owners, and even some people that are employed by businesses, businesses quite often won't pay for that for people either. Right. The only difference really in the 2 is that you can see every single profile view when you've got premium, and they say that you get advanced search features. Okay. However, you can actually do advanced searches in the free version of LinkedIn, which is a whole other subject. Oh, okay. But it's got a really weird name that sounds like a festival, Boolean.
Right. Okay.
You've heard about this.
Boolean searching.
Boolean searching.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Who, in your opinion, generally does LinkedIn really well? Who are the people that our single listener could go and connect with and have a look at to see, these people actually do LinkedIn really well and they're really taking advantage of it?
Yeah, great question. There's a couple of people that come to mind, and actually there's the first person that comes to mind is a lady called Kirsty Gray, and that's Kirsty with a Y, not an IE. So and then Gray as in GRAY. Go look Kirsty up, and she's a business advisor for Solent Business and Skills Solutions. Okay. Kirsty came on one of my very early sessions of like LinkedIn for Business.
All right.
So came and, wanted to do more on LinkedIn. And I can honestly say she's probably one of the best people that have taken on everything that I've shared and gone and applied it. And she's great. She's got a great headline, great profile picture, great background on her profile, and her profile's just great. So if you want to see a great example of somebody using it, Kirsty's, the first person that I would go check out.
Okay.
The second person, who hasn't done my training actually, but somebody that I'd taken notice of on LinkedIn, and we both know him, is actually a guy called Max Shaw, the greener cleaner.
Oh yes,
who's quite well known. Max is also awesome on LinkedIn, and I only met Max in person at a Portsmouth City Council networking event a few months back, but it shows that it works because I knew Max before he even came in that room, because the content that he shares it captures your attention.
Right.
It's genuine, down to earth, informal, but it also educates you at the same time.
Okay.
And he's created like I think a great brand. So another person that's not worked with me, but somebody that's got it right. And he's just a great guy all round, but go check him out as well.
And this actually is where this highlights how powerful it is. Yesterday, I commented on one of Max's posts to say that we'd been talking about him, you and I, and how good he was.
Yeah.
And he then said, I must find out from Jodie how I can do it better. And obviously, we'll talk a bit later about how you can help people directly. But just by driving those conversations and connecting with people in a real friendly, genuine way, that building that network side of it is super powerful. So that's the end of part 1, the why section. And in that section, you heard about why you should pay attention to this LinkedIn revolution. We talked about how the world has changed, how LinkedIn is now for employed people, small businesses, large businesses. It's still free, so you really can't afford not to join in. And we've given you examples of people that do it well. And as I said, there'll be links in the show notes to those people's accounts. So if you want to, you can just pause and just take a moment now to reflect and maybe have a think about what that means to you. Decide if you want to go and do some more research yourself, maybe do some digging around in LinkedIn before you move on to the next section. So if you want to do that, pause here and then press play again when you're ready to go. Coming up in this next section, then we look at what to do on LinkedIn to do it really well. We're going to have a look at what a great profile consists of, how to connect and engage with people and why that's important, and also what a pitch slap is and how to avoid it. And we'll look at what to do to build your network, and spoiler alert, it takes a bit more than just sharing a few posts. So we talked about why. We talked about why people should take it seriously. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. If you're not doing it, you're missing out.
Yep.
And as a way of connecting with people, either if you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to promote your business, or you just want to be the authority in your field, LinkedIn clearly is the way of doing it. So let's move on now to what. I've got a list of things here to ask you about.
Yep.
First one is profiles. So let's do a good and bad. What do people do with their profile that is not great? What have you seen? Yeah,
the LinkedIn profile pitfall, I'll call it, is using your LinkedIn profile like a digital CV, because that was LinkedIn, going back 5 years, because you'd go on there and you'd want to look at what a mate is up to these days, or what somebody used to go to school with is doing, and where are they working, and you'd go and have a look and you could see, and they'd make it all like, I've got a picture in my training of Darth Vader actually, and it says one side it's got Anakin Skywalker, and then the other side it's got Dark Lord, and it's got all of these things that they've done. And I like it because some people are kind of a bit over the top with their LinkedIn profiles, and they'll have loads of experience on there. But the common profile pitfall I will see is people using it still like a digital CV.
Okay.
And the good way, which is the next one, is using it and seeing it like an extension of your website. So if you're a new business owner and you can't afford a website, you've got the opportunity to basically have your own landing page, which is your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
And that's the way to use it right. So still use your experience on there and mention your experience, but use it as an opportunity to give people your contact details and show what you do. Because if they come up, stumble upon you and they look at your profile and they can see your contact information, they can get hold of you. Okay. I've got an example. Can I share it with the listener? Yeah. So I went to a networking event a few months ago, and I met somebody that was a business coach, and we were talking, and I thought, I really want to connect with this person because I knew that I needed a business coach to help me take my business to the next level. So it planted a seed for me. And I thought, what I'm going to do when I go home, I'm going to find this person, I'm going to connect with them on LinkedIn, and I'm going to see how much they charge to work with them. Okay. I got home, went on their LinkedIn profile. They didn't have an open profile, which means that nobody could contact them unless they were connected.
Right.
Sent a connection request. Looked at their contact information and thought, oh, that's annoying. There isn't any way to contact them, but it's okay. They'll accept my connection request. I didn't have any email credits, so I couldn't message them because you can use email credits to message someone you're not connected with. I waited a day, hadn't been accepted.
Right.
I waited the next day, hadn't been accepted.
Right.
And then this awesome friend that I've got released a podcast with a lady called Helen Walker, who is a coach.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this woman looks awesome. And I had some coaching with Helen, and I paid Helen literally after listening. I think it was the day after listening to your podcast with her.
Okay.
Paid for her coaching, and she got my business.
Yes.
The other person still hasn't even accepted my LinkedIn connection request, but they don't have any contact information. And that is why LinkedIn is so important, to have all of your contact information on there, because if you meet somebody by chance and they're like, oh, that person's great, I want to work with them, that person lost the lead.
Yeah. So thinking about the profile, and I'm going to put you on the spot a bit here. We haven't prepared this. Can you give the listener 2 or 3 tips about what to put where? So I'm the kind of person that has been using it as my online CV. All I've done really is just put my employment history and a picture of me when I was 25, because, I want people to think I'm still young.
Yeah.
What can people do fairly quickly to jazz it up?
Yeah. There's 3 things. The first thing I would say is make sure you've got a super professional looking headshot.
Okay.
So not a picture you've just copied and pasted from Facebook, a professional headshot. And if you need one of those, Penny Plimmer is your woman. She does amazing headshots. Reach out to Penny.
Yeah.
The second one is underneath your name on LinkedIn, you've got the opportunity to write your headline. And a lot of people, and a common issue that I'll see with this, like the company I was with training last week, they had theirs as sales manager.
Right.
Why do you think the word sales is not great to use in a headline?
Yeah. It just turns people off.
Yeah, exactly. So when you go to connect with somebody, if they see the word sales, they think this person just wants to sell me something, I'm not going to connect. Yeah. So try something like, I help X, achieve Y through this.
Okay.
That's a great headline because it gives a brief overview of how you can help somebody.
Yes.
So if you've commented on something or you've posted and they then go to your profile, if they can see a nice clean headline about what you do and how you help them, again, it's another way to get them to look at your profile.
Okay.
The third one is your about me. So rather than having, I graduated South Downs College with a, apprenticeship in accounting and then worked for this company, you could say something like, I've got a history of working with large brands and helping them to generate leads that have turned into substantial growth for the business. So something that's going to keep the reader reading what you've got. So maybe start with a hook or something and then always finish with a nice call to action that isn't spammy, salesy. But if you want to chat more, here's my email address, reach out and we'll have a coffee.
Okay. So let me just recap. Professional profile picture.
Yep.
Penny Plimmer, for example, is a great person to do that with. The next line, so that next line that's underneath the profile picture, what's that called?
It's called your headline.
Your headline.
Yeah.
And that is if you like, a very clean, clear summary of your skills. Not what job you do or sales, but actually 4 or 5 things that you do to help companies, the skills you've got, just making it clear to people what you're about.
Yeah.
And then the about me, you said a nice paragraph that showcases what you've done, what you've achieved. To me, the common theme seems to continue to be about how I am helping other people. That seems to be...
That's it.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. How you help other people get that across rather than what you do. It's just like sales, isn't it? When you try and sell something, if you sit and talk about yourself, you're not going to get the sale. But if you sit and talk about how you can solve a problem and how you help somebody, you're likely to get the sale. And that's what we want to do with our LinkedIn profile.
It's also about like networking, isn't it? Oh, hang on. Yeah. That's the next point. Connecting with people.
Yeah.
Because... I mean, I know what it's like. You go to a face-to-face networking thing and someone comes up to you and they say, hi, I'm Roy. Roy's not a real person.
Yeah.
I've made it up. Hi, I'm Roy and this is my company and this is what I do. And it's all like blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you everything. And you just switch off, don't you?
Yeah.
And I found in life, actually, just asking people about them instead of talking about you. But from what I understand, your advice is that's actually a fairly good approach to take when connecting with people.
Yeah,
so tell us more about that.
I think you should see LinkedIn exactly the same as you would when you go face-to-face networking. Like you wouldn't go, the whole pitch slap thing, I think we'll get onto that. But, when you go into a networking room, you don't burst through the doors and just shout to everyone, "Hi, I'm Jodie and I do LinkedIn training. Who wants some? Come and buy my stuff." Because everyone would turn around and look at you and be like...
Well, they did, didn't they? You tried that and it didn't work, did it?
Tried doing it. But they would look at you and be like, "Who's that?" Like, it just makes people shut off. And it's the same with LinkedIn. If you're going out to masses and just, chucking a message out there to try and pitch people through network, it's not going to work. Whereas if you go up to somebody and say, "Hi, I'm Jodie, it's really nice to meet you." Like you just said, networking face-to-face is always a bit of an awkward thing. Not really sure what to say, but how's things with you? That normally gets a conversation going. The same with LinkedIn. If you message somebody and say, "Look, a lot of people, connect on LinkedIn and they typically don't actually say anything to each other. So I thought I'd come and say, hello, how's things going in your world?" It's a great way to get conversation started because then you start to talk and people are like, well, this person is showing a genuine interest in me and they actually do want to connect with me. They don't want to try and sell me something.
Yeah. When you connect with people, sometimes LinkedIn lets you put a message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's your view on, should you put a note, they call it, and what should you put in that note?
Yeah, well, if you use the free version of LinkedIn, they've just rolled an update out. So you can actually only send 5 personalised connection requests. I think it's a week.
Right.
In the free version. I would always, it's like a 50-50. Some people say connection requests are 10% more likely to be accepted when they're blank. Personally, I will always typically put a message that says something like, "Hi, I'm Jodie, a local business owner looking to grow my network. Hopefully we can connect," something like that, and they get accepted. But it's just down to what you want. I wouldn't connect with somebody and say, "Hi, I'm Jodie. I offer LinkedIn training and it costs X. Do you want it?"
Yeah, you've got a name for that, haven't you?
Yeah, that's pitch slapping.
Tell us what pitch slapping is.
So pitch slapping, we all have it on LinkedIn. It's when somebody tries to connect with you and you're like, "Yeah, they look all right." You accept it, and then 2 seconds later, the slap comes in and it's them saying, "Hi, do you want this stuff?" And it's basically what I can sell, and we'll set up a call. And if you set up a call with everyone that said it, you'd basically spend your whole week doing that. But that's what pitch slapping is. And it's normally really impersonal. They've not researched. Like I get them and it will say, "Hi Jodie, do you know about the power of LinkedIn? You should be using it to generate new business." And I'm almost a bit face palm because I'm like, obviously if you'd looked at my profile, you'd know that I understand LinkedIn. Or they'll say, "I've just seen your hiring goals. Can we help you recruit?" And I'm like, I'm a one-woman band and I'm not recruiting anyone. So you haven't seen my hiring goals. You just wrote a message and sent it to thousands of the same people.
Yeah. So from my listeners' perspective, if they're going to connect with people, what you're saying, make sure I've got this right, is first of all, when you connect with people, particularly people you don't know, don't try and sell them something. Don't tell them what you can do for them, but just make a gentle connection like you would in real life and say something that says, "Tell me more," or "Tell me about you," as opposed to you transmitting and telling about them.
Yeah, but make it really human and personal. So try not to... kind of be robotic in the, "I noticed you looked at my profile, tell me more about you," because somebody would be a bit like, "Oh, that's," because you wouldn't go up to somebody and say that. So you could say to somebody,
"I've tried it doesn't work."
Like, "Hi, I noticed you looked at my profile and I realised we haven't actually met before, so I thought I'd say hi, how's things in your world?"
And the other thing you said, particularly if you are in the world of sales and you are actively trying to promote a service or a business, doing a bit of research, so looking at the person's profile and seeing what matters to them, to try and gently tailor that initial connection to something that, I see you into video production, I see you into training, training's your world. How is the world of training at the moment? That kind of stuff. Is that?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, and you mentioned about the profile views as well, and I always stress that in my workshops because it is powerful, and I've had the same. I've had somebody look at my profile who I'm connected with, but we've never spoken. So I've done the same, reached out. "I've noticed you looked at my profile, but it's just occurred to me we've actually never spoken. So I thought I'd say hello. How's things in your world?" The message I got back was, "I was actually just looking at your training. I think it's worth a conversation. Here's my mobile number. Give me a call." You wouldn't have got that lead if you hadn't have stepped out. Sometimes you will be able to look at your profile views and tell if it's worth following up. If you look and it's a competitor, obviously not to follow up. If you look and it's a recruiter, you might not think that's right. But if you understand, and building your network is also about understanding your ideal customer. And if you understand what they look like and kind of what attributes they have, and they come on and look at your profile, reach out to them. If they've looked and you're not connected, connect. If you're connected and they look, message them, because you'd be surprised at how much business you can get from that.
Yeah. And not just how much business, but the reason I'm pausing is because the words you just used, I'm sure, are literally the words you said to me when you said, I see we're connected, but we've not talked before.
Yeah.
And, and we've done so much stuff together now. And just that kind of beneficial connection. It might not be about selling a product or a service, but it's just about being connected with people who can help you and you can help them, and be best pals. And we're doing high fives at the moment. All that kind of stuff.
And that's actually, that's a great point, because it isn't just about selling your stuff. It's also, for those of us that are, solopreneurs, as you call it, or, business owners that, work on our own, we need stimulation from others that are going through the same. And one thing that you and I have done, and I have no doubt that my business wouldn't be where it is without you, and vice versa, because we quite often will bounce off each other with ideas, and we'll be like, I'm really struggling with this, what would you do? And we share things. The same with that PBE group of people. It's quite a lot of small business owners that share things. And networking isn't just about selling. I think that's something I should have probably said a lot earlier, but it is also about making genuine connections, because it's not just who you know, but it's also who knows you. The amount of times I've been at an event and, another person we network with at PBE, Sandy, Sandy's come and grabbed me so many times and said, you need to speak to this person because they've just mentioned LinkedIn, and she'll introduce me to somebody. Whereas you might think, well, Sandy is a hypnotherapist, wouldn't necessarily be my ideal customer, but she knows a lot of people and has, introduced me to people that have now become customers. So,
I had exactly the same. So Debbie, who I met at a LinkedIn local, they connected me with Hayley, who is now my accountant. and that kind of, just knowing people that know people and building your network that way it is a small world, and you often come across as people that can help you, or you can help them, or just have a good connection. And also you've made me think about maybe people who are employed. So I think back to my world of retail sales. And when I was an area manager, I was a knob, to be honest with you. Not all the time, but I did do some of those knobby things, and I'm cured now. But
I think it's called learning.
Yeah, it's called learning. But I had a degree of arrogance where I believed that I was generating the business that my patch was taking, and all that kind of stuff. And I would never connect with another field manager that worked either in a competitor business or even any other business, because for me, it was all about me, it was all about my patch. If I think about it now, if I was living that world again, I'd really want to connect with other people who are doing the same job maybe in different parts of the country or different companies, because then, and particularly if they're not working for competitors, you can then share experiences, because those field jobs can be very lonely jobs, and often within your organisation there aren't very many people who you can confide in, trust, talk to. So that's another example where I think that just reaching out to people who do the same thing as you, and just making a connection and building your network just for the sake of being connected, I think is powerful. Yeah,
so mixing the two, so people that you can learn from and people that your ideal customer. And it's really important to dedicate time every single day to building your network, because the more people you've got in your network, the more people that are going to see what you're talking about and what you're sharing. And again, another common pitfall that I'll see with people using LinkedIn is they'll say, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. And they're sharing great content, but they've got 200 connections. And they're all people they used to work with. So, of course, if you're not sharing what you know with the right audience, it's not going to work for you.
Sorry to interrupt your listening, but I just wanted to jump in with a quick message. If you've listened to Sharp Podcast for a few years, you might be wondering why we've been mentioning SON development and what that's all about. Are they a sponsor? Is it a house building company? Well, no. You see, we've been making Sharp Podcasts since 2017, and it's always been our aim to give you free resource that helps you get better at the things that matter to you, and we're not planning to change that. But SON Development is the training company that I founded in 2021 to help organisations, teams and individuals improve performance and make a real difference to their working lives. We run workshops, we do consultation, and we provide digital resource about leadership, coaching, sales, customer service, planning and prioritisation, and loads more stuff. So if you're a business or a team leader and you're frustrated that your training isn't making a real difference, give us a shout. You can find out more about what we do at sondevelopment.com, and of course there's a link in the show notes. But if you prefer to get your development free of charge with Sharp Podcast, would you do us a favour and just make a quick note now to share this episode or any that you really like with your friends, family, colleagues, anyone who you think it could help. We'd really appreciate it. End of interruption, back to the episode. So that brings us on to posts.
That was good, wasn't
So
it?
yeah, it's almost like we've planned this. So we've talked about what to do with your profile. We've talked about reaching out and connecting with people. Talk a little bit about posts then, and about what... So what have you seen that's bad when people post things?
I think the common thing that I'm seeing, and also the common thing that I'm hearing when I'm out running my training, is that people kind of almost get put off LinkedIn by the people that are using it wrong.
Okay.
So, in the session that I was in yesterday, one of the ladies that was in the session was saying how, she's put off by it because some people really overshare on LinkedIn, and they almost share the same as what they would share on Facebook and Instagram. And I think that's where you do it wrong.
Okay.
The idea of using LinkedIn, obviously it's down to everyone's personal preference how much you use, but one post I always talk about is there was a post that went viral from this guy, and he had a picture of him down on one knee proposing to his partner, and the post started with, "I got engaged at the weekend and here's what it taught me about B2B sales." Right, and you're like, oh God. And you can see why it went viral, because you're like, that poor woman as well must have been like, great, you're basically using our engagement to talk about this is what I learned from B2B sales. So I think you've got to find a way of being authentic and using your personality, but we don't share the same, think about what you would share in an office that would be appropriate.
Okay.
And that kind of is what you would share on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So when it goes wrong, it's things like, the Facebook posts where people, check into the hospital and they're like, check in at QA, and then everyone's like, "Oh, are you okay? You okay?" I recently saw, something a bit like that where it's just a bit too personal. So I think just be conscious of not going too far. Okay. With it.
So let's just recap then in terms of practical things our listener can do. Update your profile.
Yeah.
Professional headshot. The About Me section updated. The headline updated. Clear skills. What you bring to the party. Reaching out and connecting with people. Be genuine. Be human. Connect with people for the sake of being connected, not trying to sell something, not trying to pitch something to them. Don't pitch slap.
Yep.
And in your posts, think about what you would put up. We talked before when we were talking about content, and you said something about posts in relation to giving away stuff and not being the gatekeeper, not holding stuff back, but giving away practically useful things to people, but without there always being a call to action at the end. So just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that the idea of networking is it's kind of twofold. We go out networking to learn things, but we also go out networking to share things with other people that could, all of us have got really good, experience that we can share and people can learn from. So we should be sharing that. And in LinkedIn's community policies, the idea of LinkedIn is that it's a community to learn and grow. So if you've got some good stuff to share, don't hold it back and, want people to work with you. Yeah. You can build trust with people by showing that you care. So educate your audience. What do you know that you could share? It could be that you're a startup business and you're 6 months into your journey and you can think, actually, on day one, if I knew this, that would have really helped me. That's a great post to share.
Okay.
It could be that you're in year 2 of business and you've got people in your network that are, in year 1. What do you know now that you wish you'd known then?
Right.
It could be something you've learned in a previous role that you had, or it could be something you're doing now. Like, there's always things. I won't gatekeep the information that I know about LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yes, I've got a masterclass, but it would take me 3 hours to go through everything I knew with somebody, which is why I run it as a masterclass. Yeah. But what I do is share bits every day, every week with people. Like, a tip for the listeners now, if you open up the LinkedIn app on your phone, this was one that was loved recently. Open the LinkedIn app on your phone, go into the search bar, press the search bar. On the right-hand side, you see a little square. If you press that, you've got a digital business card on you at all times. And not a lot of people know that. So there's little things like that I can share that will help people. And that's what you should be doing, because that builds trust and credibility. You know, if you're holding back things and saying, I can teach you how to, you know, and you see it on LinkedIn, I can teach you how to, you know, 50 times your revenue, DM me the word, you know, I'm a knob, and I'll send you how to do it. And you see all those posts and they just don't want to tell you unless you pay them. Yeah. That's not going to create trust and credibility. It's just going to make people think, yeah, you are.
And that brings us on to the algorithm, because we talked about the algorithm. So how can people just gently be aware of the algorithm and what they can do that can help them?
Yeah. So I recently found, and I shared it with you actually, I think it was a 150 odd page document that was about the LinkedIn algorithm, which was huge. And
I've still got it in my to-do list.
Don't worry about it, because the summary of it is that it doesn't actually make sense to anyone, really, the algorithm. It's because it's a combination of humans and AI. So when you post on LinkedIn, you might not know that AI is looking at what you're posting, and so are certain humans at LinkedIn. And what they're looking for is to see how educational what you're sharing is, and is it contributing and helping your community. So if you're sharing content that's like, here's a poll, what takeaway do you get on a Friday night? Do you go curry, Chinese or kebab? The LinkedIn algorithm and the humans are going to look at that and go, that's not educating our audience. We're not going to boost that on the platform, because everything is about impressions on LinkedIn. So to boost your impressions, which to help the listener is the amount of people that see your LinkedIn post, you need to be engaging in all of the different activities on LinkedIn. So that is sharing content regularly, commenting on others' content regularly, liking others' content, sharing content, and basically contributing to the platform. If you drop in and you just, you know, look at what's going on and you share one post now and again, LinkedIn will not work for you. The way the algorithm works is it starts to build momentum. So first of all, it's very slow. You're not going to start to see LinkedIn work for you straight away. But if you regularly post 3 times a week, 2 times at least, you engage with people's stuff, that momentum starts to build. And then 2-3 months down the line, it's almost like a fast running wheel that's running, because the algorithm is seeing that you're getting involved and you're contributing. So it'll keep pushing your posts out there. So that's how the algorithm works.
And I've got in my daily checklist, because I don't know if you know, but I have a system for all my stuff. In my daily checklist, one of the things I have is to engage with 3 people every day. Just find someone to engage with and either comment on their post, reshare their post. I reshared a really good post this morning. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, to me, I mean, that just feels like it's the right thing to do, you know, to connect with people and so on. And it's not just about me posting my post and so on. But from what you're saying also, if our listener does that, that can help to build that momentum with the algorithm and then get their post in front of more people. And
it does. So and what I will also add is, don't do that just for the sake of it. And I see people doing that. And there's also, you might spot this, but there's people using AI to comment on posts for them. Okay. Which is just horrendous. And I had one today, and you can tell it's just generated by a machine, because it doesn't, you can just tell. So make sure it's genuine and authentic. If you don't know how to do that, all you need to do is think about your specialist subjects. If we were using you as an example, you'd go onto LinkedIn, open your either the app on your phone or the computer desktop version. In the search bar, you'd type training as an example, press return, and then you can look at posts that are talking about training. And if that's your subject, you can just look through and you can see things that come up. And we were talking about somebody else before we did this post, and it's a guy called Steve Reeve, who's Be the Goat, which I love. And I love looking at Steve's engagement on LinkedIn, because he's always genuine. If he sees something and he disagrees with it, he'll be honest and put that on there. He won't, shark around it. He'll be honest. And honest engagement and genuine engagement is important, because it shows people that you're not just doing something for the sake of it. You're a genuine person. And if you don't think someone's sharing something that's valuable, you'll say that. Yes. And I really like that, because I quite often see Steve, if someone shared something about sales, that's his thing, and he doesn't agree, he'll put that on there and say, actually, I would do it this way. Or, this is a great post, I agree, great shout.
Yeah. Speaking of AI, there's a chap called Ros Stevenson who he's from the world of L&D. And I really like Ros's posts, because he gives away a tremendous amount of knowledge about AI and what's good and what's not good. And if you sign up for Ros's newsletter, you then get into your inbox a couple of times a week, like proper. There is so much you can learn without having to pay for a course or anything. He gives that away. But I love his style, and he is, like Steve Reeve, he's honest and he's open, and he'll challenge stuff if things aren't right.
Yeah.
And he has a different approach. He's not just pandering to what he thinks people want to see. And I think that authenticity and that kind of genuine characteristic is an interesting one to have, and it stands out.
It does, and it genuinely builds trust and credibility, which people need to see in order to think, this person knows what they're talking about. Yeah. I can see that they genuinely know what they're talking about because they're commenting on it. And then that's how you start to get inquiries into your inbox, because people will, they'll see, like the client I'd done 2 days work for last week, he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he'd never interacted with any of my posts or commented, but he'd obviously seen a number of times and planted seeds through my content that I was talking about how important it is for LinkedIn, messaged me and said, "Hey Jodie, we know that we need to get our team using LinkedIn. Is this something you'd want to quote on and chuck your hat in the ring for?" Okay. Like, great. Yes, right. I would. And this is, the next minute, a couple of weeks later, I'm up there delivering training. So it just shows the power of it. It works.
Yeah. You and I have talked about loads of stuff. In the show notes, I will put in kind of top tips, quick action points and so on. So even if some of the stuff we're talking about in the conversation feels quite deep or quite involved, don't worry, just go to the show notes and you can see some useful top tips and info in there. I'll just recap this what section before we move on to the final section, which is the how. So we talked about the importance of your profile.
Yep.
Headshot, about me, headline.
Yep.
We've talked about reaching out and messaging, connecting with people, being authentic, doing it regularly, giving rather than taking.
Yep.
And then in terms of your posts, putting posts out regularly, a variety of stuff, be authentic, post 2 or 3 times a week, but also as much, if not more, connect with other people, engage with other people, reshare, comment on their posts, be active on LinkedIn. Don't just churn stuff out and wonder why no one's looking at your poll that says, "Are you having a curry for dinner tonight?"
Yeah, and can I add something there?
Yes. No. Yes.
So that, to a lot of people, I can imagine they'll be like, that is a lot for me to do.
Yes.
However, as a new business owner, we don't often have the luxury of having money to spend on marketing. So what I would ask you is, what's the alternative? If you don't have the money, which a lot of us don't, I didn't when I started to do marketing, then we need people the more people we can show our product or service to, the more chance we've got of selling it. And the more we connect with people, the more chance we've got to learn and grow our businesses. If we don't have the luxury of having the money to invest in marketing, what we do have as a new business owner is time. Yeah. And LinkedIn is a powerful tool that you can use for free to get eyes on your stuff for people to want to engage you and buy it, and to get free advice from other people that have been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. So that's probably a real big thing. Don't sit there and think, God, that sounds like a lot to do, because almost it's like, well, what is, for me, I didn't have the alternative. I didn't have the money to do marketing, but I did have the time. Yeah.
And I think what that also highlights for me, and obviously, my pet subject is productivity and kind of, I don't like time management because you can't manage time. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. We've all got the same. But it's about treating it as a priority, isn't it?
It is.
And there's a lot to do when you're starting a new business. It might feel like you don't have time, as in, or what am I going to do to fill the next hour? But it's about prioritization.
Yeah.
And it's about deciding that actually promoting my business from a business perspective is probably the most important thing for you to do. The admin, the accounting, the legal stuff, it's all got to be done. But even if you set aside an hour a day, you've still got 7 hours. Yeah. If you're limiting yourself to an 8-hour working day, you've still got 7 hours to do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But an hour a day of focused work, posting things, engaging, connecting, and just trying that stuff out.
Yeah.
That's an hour well spent, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Businesses just wouldn't survive if they didn't have leads. Lead generation is the lifeblood of every single business, whether we like it or not. We need leads to be able to sell our products. And a lot of the business owners I'll speak with and I'll engage with will say, I'm not actually sure if this product's any good because no one wants it. And then I'm like, well, how many people are you going out to show it to every week? And they're like, well, I'm not. And it's like, well, that's why. It's not that you've not got a lot of people I meet have got an incredible product and service, but they're just not talking to enough people to show people how good it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about people that are doing it really well. Let's just chuck in another couple. So I mentioned Ross Stevenson.
Yeah. Another one I've got, so there's another two. So one is a guy called Reese Matthews, who's one of the co-founders of Hewitt Matthews. I know Reese is quite new to getting himself out on LinkedIn, and he's not afraid to tell people that, but he would be great to look at because he's very new on his journey. So go check out Reese. Of Hewitt Matthews. And then another one is actually a guy that was recently on the Diary of a CEO podcast, a guy called Daniel Priestley. This guy gets it. Like, this guy is, I think, awesome, and go find him because he gives so much away for new business owners to help with lead generation, and he's cracked LinkedIn and he's cracked lead generation. So go find him, Daniel Priestley, and actually listen to that episode of him on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO because it was an excellent one for new businesses.
So that's the end of part 2, the what section. In that section, we covered building your profile, connecting, engaging, and building your network. So again, you've got a choice now. If you want to, just take a moment to pause, reflect, think about what it means to you. Like last time, if you want to go and do some research, dig around on LinkedIn, or maybe go and even make some changes before you move on to the next section. So pause here if you want to do that, and then press play again when you're ready. So coming up in the final section, the how section, we're going to look at how to do LinkedIn well with some really practical advice. We're going to talk about when to post, how to plan time in, what other tools you can use, and the importance of the consistency of tone and being authentic. And you'll find out how Jodie can help you do all this so you don't have to do it on your own. In terms of how people do it, I mean, we've covered a chunk of this already anyway, which is fantastic. We've talked about being consistent. We've talked about post at least 2 or 3 times a week regularly.
Yeah.
There is some debate, isn't there, about whether there is a good time or not a good time. Personally, I find Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning seem to work for me.
Yeah, I've read others and I've tried it and it doesn't work. So the morning is the best.
Weekends are hit and miss because it depends whether people are doing other stuff and so on. And obviously people can use things like Canva or other tools to sort of, if they want to up their game in terms of how it looks and that kind of stuff, and that can be helpful and useful. Brand message and kind of consistency. Just what would your advice be to someone about having a consistent tone or consistent message?
Yeah, I think that gets harder as you get into the larger businesses. And I think this is going to become something of the future without going off piece, because I know we're limited for time. But a company I was working with last week, you know, that they're a huge company and they need to try and keep all their messaging very similar. Right. So I think that can be a challenge. But it's just about, again, having conversations and talking about things that you would be comfortable and okay talking about in front of your boss and in the office. As long as it is that, then I think that's fine. But I would recommend for any larger companies that might be an SME or an enterprise, get yourself some LinkedIn brand guidelines of what is and isn't acceptable to post. Yeah. Because you don't want to let the staff go gung-ho and then someone say something, because that's also brand damaging to the brand if they do something wrong. And
also, if you work for yourself, I mean, I think we're quite similar in many ways, far too many ways. And one of the things that I think we both do is we recognise that our brand is us.
Yes.
And frankly, if you see what Jodie or I put on LinkedIn, that's exactly the same as you'll get when you meet us in person. You know, we don't pretend to be someone else. We don't try to make out we can do things we can't do. And equally, we're transparent about what we think we're good at and what our areas of expertise are. But just being yourself and not trying to be other people, because it will come out, won't it? It will. You see it.
Yeah. And don't overcomplicate it. Like we were talking about this yesterday in the workshop I did with Shaping Portsmouth. Like, just think about what's been going on in your week, you know, and you're great at that. That's what, you know, every week, you know that you're going to do a post that talks about what you've done in the week. Think about what you've done in the last week and what would be great to share with your ideal customer. So, you know, what meetings have you had that have been great? Can you get a selfie of you with somebody when you've been sharing a coffee and having a great conversation? Yeah. What have you done for a client this week? You know, as a client said to you, God, you know, that's a really great service you've delivered. Really well done. That's great to share. So just think about things in your week and don't overthink it. Yes. Don't overcomplicate it. Just do what feels right.
Yeah. We touched on, I mean, obviously you and I have talked about planning and structuring your time. And whether you want to do that informally, whether you want to go and use someone else's system, whether you want to use my system, Clear, whatever system you want to use, have a bit of a plan, just kind of a bit of a structure in the morning, or again, a lot of people don't realise, the night before, scheduling a post for the next day. If you don't have time in the morning, but just thinking about your working week, how you can plan that time in.
Point to add on that.
Yes.
So on the like kind of pre-planning, and if you can't dedicate time every day, I appreciate for some people, 45 minutes a day might seem like too much. When I first started my business, I would actually dedicate time on a Friday, because Fridays were quite quiet for me.
Okay.
When you open up the post on LinkedIn, the box where you type in what you want to share, if you look at the bottom of that, on the right-hand side, there's a little clock icon. And if you click on that, you can actually pre-schedule your post to a date and time that suit you. So if you find that, Monday afternoons are quiet, or Friday afternoons, or even if you get time at the weekend, you could actually sit and plan in as far in advance as you like subjects that you want to talk about and posts that you want to share, and then you don't even have to worry about it in the week. All you then need to do is go in and make sure you're engaging, and doing it that way. So that's another great tip for you if you struggle to kind of do it daily, or if you're going to have a busy week, you don't want to lose the momentum, use the little scheduling feature, because it's a great feature from LinkedIn.
Okay. Obviously, you're doing a lot of work with LinkedIn, and if people want help, there's a number of ways you can help them. The first way is they can just look at your profile and see what you share. So if you're not already connected to Jodie Goodchild, I highly recommend it. I'll put the link in the show notes. But also, both informally and formally, people can connect with you because you've got a community, which by the time this episode comes out should be live.
It will be, yeah.
Tell me about the community.
So the idea behind the community, everything that I do, you know me, I love, we're again very similar. Like I live to help people. I love helping people, and that's what gets me going. Money, is great, but ultimately what gets me up in the morning is making difference and helping. I do a lot of voluntary work with Portsmouth Pride Trust, and the reason that's important is because I deliver training to SMEs and enterprises, and when I deliver that enables me to do the smaller stuff, but I can't help as many of the smaller charities and smaller businesses I'd like. So I came up with the idea for the LinkedIn Revolution community as a way to be able to make my knowledge accessible to small businesses in fact, businesses of all sizes. It's not just the small businesses, but somewhere they can go to share, what are they struggling with, get answers. I do monthly Q&A sessions in the community where I'm there. If you've got a problem on LinkedIn or you want to chat about LinkedIn, you can join it and ask your questions. There's a community of people that are on there to talk to and, share things with, to help. There's a learning hub, so educational content. So if you want to know how to optimize your profile, I will teach you how to do that in a video that's available in there. There's tons of documents. It's just a place for people to go that want to help with LinkedIn, but they don't know where to start. The LinkedIn Revolution community is for you. I've made it for everyone, and it's a resource to genuinely help people with this LinkedIn revolution, which we're in. It's not going backwards, it's going forwards. And getting ahead now is, it's becoming more and more of a subject people are talking about. And this is there to genuinely help everyone and share successes together and grow together.
Okay. And then also, while we're talking about what you're up to, you've got a book coming out.
I have, and I probably would have announced it a bit more by the time this goes out. So that's also titled, needed to be, The LinkedIn Revolution, The Future of Sales and Marketing. It's not a book which is you're going to have to read it, and it's not me talking at you. It's a brief intro about why LinkedIn is important and why there is such a thing as the LinkedIn Revolution. It's actually a workbook. So I've designed it in a really easy to use format so that you can go through it and actually use it to help you change things as you read it. And I gave a copy of it to a friend of ours, Gemma Waller, VA, and Gemma. The feedback Gemma gave me was absolutely incredible. And she actually, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but she has ADHD. Okay. And she said, this is the most useful business book I've ever read because it's not bombarding with, words and everything. It's a bit of information and then it stops and gives you really simple bullet points to read, take notes, actions, and then move on to the next section. So, please head over. It'll be on Amazon. And obviously I'll also be selling copies. Cool.
And then obviously from a corporate perspective, you offer training workshops to businesses who want to get, 10, 15 people in the room and to learn how to set up their LinkedIn profile. You do proper serious workshop training stuff for organizations, which you've got a fair bit of recently.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So I've developed a 3-hour introduction to LinkedIn session. So we talk about the importance of LinkedIn and why the business should be on it. We talk about how to use it. We do actions in it where we update profiles and everything together, so it's kind of hands-on. And then we also talk about the importance of using it for brand awareness and lead generation in the right way and not the wrong way. And on that, when I finish the session, I always give feedback forms, and the feedback forms have genuinely been amazing. Like they've always, the ones I've got back, they say, couldn't fault, amazing intel, really helped me, super useful, wouldn't change anything.
Wow.
So, the feedback has been great from the teams that I've run it for. And if you go over to my profile, you can see various pictures of me training it and the teams commenting on it after.
Oh, fantastic.
So if you're a business and you know that you need to do more on LinkedIn, that session is absolutely for you. It's 3 hours. You can have as many of the team in it as you want. And I almost guarantee by the time you've done it, those that are a bit like, don't really know why, come out of it and they go, yeah, I can see the importance and I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And ultimately it's going to probably get more revenue in than it's going to cost you to get me in to do a session.
So whether you're an individual who wants to just assert their authority in the field you're in, whether you are a small business trying to promote your business, whether you're about lead generation, whether you're a large business that wants to get a group of people trained, you can help them with the community or the book or the training. You were on such a roll about the community there that when you were competing against that person outside who had their phone on speaker, which our listener may or may not have heard, I didn't want to stop you because you were doing such an awesome job there that it's just going to have to stay in. Okay. That's life. We're authentic, aren't we? If nothing else. So I'm mindful of time. Just very, very quick recap. We've talked about why LinkedIn matters, why people should take it seriously. You cannot start a business now without involving the internet. Those days have gone of knocking on doors and phone calls and that kind of stuff. It's ubiquitous. It's here to stay. You talked about some of the stats, 2 million posts a day. How many people on there at the moment, did you say?
There's 1 billion people on LinkedIn. 1 billion
people. Flipping heck. Also, another thing that we've talked about before, LinkedIn may not be the only network forever. Competitors might come out and other stuff might happen. But getting your act together on LinkedIn and understanding what works and doesn't work is going to prepare our listener. Then if something else comes out, if there's an X or a Meta that is equivalent for LinkedIn that actually stays around, learning how to do it well. We've talked about profile, what people can do with posts, how to reach out and connect with people. We've talked about how the algorithm works and what the algorithm does, about being consistent, about how to post, about planning your day to build time in. Buy the Clear course, it'll help you. About your brand message and consistency, your community. We've talked about loads of people that do it really well. What have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
Do you know what? I genuinely don't think you haven't asked me anything that I should have answered.
Okay.
Does that even make sense?
I don't know, but it's staying in.
The only thing the thing that I was going to say is, when I say that I love helping people, I genuinely mean that. So if you've listened to this podcast and you're like, oh, I wish she'd answered this, find me on LinkedIn, ask me the question. I'll answer it for you. Okay. I've told you that I'm passionate about helping people and I mean it. So if there's something else you've got, or you're like, oh, I wonder what she'd think about X, Y, Z, come find me and ask me and I'll answer it. This
is really weird. It's almost like we've planned this because we're in the blatant self-promotion section now. Look, I'm holding a bit of paper up here because that's the bit about. So just if you let the listener know where they can connect with you, where you are online. Yep. So just search Jodie Goodchild on LinkedIn and you'll find me. I've got a big, happy, smiley, purple background picture. You can find me on Instagram. I'm trying to grow my Instagram following at the moment. Okay. So please follow me. I'm at Jodie Goodchild and then an underscore at the end. And the same on TikTok, at Jodie Goodchild and underscore. So they're two other platforms I'm testing at the moment. So please come and follow me, or feel free to follow me on one or all of them. Fantastic. And then if people want to find out more about your community and your book and all that kind of stuff, they can go. You've got a website. Yeah. www.jodiegoodchild.com. Okay, fantastic. And we'll put all those links in the show notes. Yeah. I don't know why we didn't do this sooner, because it seems like crazy, an obvious thing we should have done and so on, but there's so much stuff in here that's going to help people, which is superb. I really appreciate you coming. We have to let Spark have the room back now because they've got someone else wanting to do some podcasting in here. Thanks ever so much. I really appreciate your time. I know our listener will have got lots from it too. And my pleasure. If you haven't done so already, get in touch with Jodie. And the beautiful thing about Jodie is that she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the walk. So go and have a look at Jodie's profile on LinkedIn and you can see what someone who does it really well looks like and what they do. And she will respond to you as well. I will. So what did you think? Did you listen to it all in one go, or did you work through it section by section and try some stuff out? Whatever you did, you're still listening, so clearly you're interested. And it's really important to go and actually do some of this stuff before you forget. There are links in the show notes to all the people that do a great job at this stuff on LinkedIn, so you can have a look and see what we mean by doing it well. Apparently, I do it all right as well, so by all means check out my profile, and of course, connect with Jodie's and see what Jodie does herself. And she's genuine in what she says there. Contact her to connect, because whether you connect with Jodie, or me, or both of us, there are benefits to all of us to connect, sharing ideas, and I particularly recommend having a look at Jodie's LinkedIn Revolution community. Now, I usually end the podcast by saying something like, don't compare yourself to anyone else, compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. And that's particularly true of social media. We should never try to be the same as other people. Don't try to be the same as Jodie or me or the other people that we're showcasing. But just have a look and get inspired by them, and then decide what you want to do to improve and develop yourself. Because that's what really matters. And what's also important is not to feel overwhelmed. Just start somewhere. Start small. Just do one thing first. Maybe it's a new profile picture, or maybe you're adding one routine to your day to engage with people better. So I told you this was going to be a great episode, and I think you'll agree. Have fun with this stuff, enjoy playing with it, and I really genuinely look forward to connecting with you online in LinkedIn to see what you're doing. Until next time, take care, see you later.